737, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. As far as your weather for today, high of 74 and sunny. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. Stephen Bucci, foreign policy military analyst with the Heritage Foundation. Always love your perspective, and he is our guest right now. Stephen, let me ask you, they're saying this is a make-or-break meeting in Saudi Arabia. You've got Marco Rubio, who is there, of course, representing America, and others from the Trump administration. And Zelensky has been there. I think he was there yesterday. Not sure if he's there today. But talk about this, as they're saying, a make-or-break meeting regarding these peace talks in Saudi Arabia.
Well, you know, we had the kerfluffle last week, and that got everybody all spun up. And now we got to get the ship right. We've got to look. They're trying to negotiate something that's very, very difficult. Dan, they got neither side is going to even be vaguely happy with the results because both sides have going in positions that are just unreachable. Ukraine wants all the Russians out of Ukraine, wants everything to go back to the way it was, 20 years ago. That's not going to happen. Russia wants to keep everything it's stolen and probably get more and have complete control over everything Ukraine does as a nation, policy-wise, who they associate with, and that's not going to stand. So Rubio's got to lead this talk to get to a point where both of these sides can essentially declare victory and go back to their corners and hopefully not fight with each other again in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That's going to be tough to reach. So I don't know if it's make or break. If they don't decide something in the next 2 days, it doesn't mean everybody's going to, turn into World War III. But we need to make some progress, if possible, here almost immediately.
Do you think both sides want this to end? I mean, I know Zelensky wants it to end. Everybody wants to come away with a victory or be able to claim victory, but is there a way for both sides to claim victory? I mean, they're both very polarized in their stances.
Yeah, they are. With national leaders declaring victory, sometimes you look at it and go, it doesn't look like a victory to me, but that's okay. If we can get these two sides to a position where they can at least find a way to sell it that way domestically, that would be enough. Now, I don't know if we can do that or not, because you're right. The two sides are so badly spread apart in opposite directions that it's going to be a tough lift to get there. But that's Rubio's task as he goes in, is to try and find a way to stop the killing and get both sides to agree to hold what they got at least, or maybe back off a little bit, and somehow give Ukraine the ability to be a sovereign nation. The Russians really don't want them to be a sovereign nation. They want them to be a vassal of Moscow. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to that. But on the same hand, I don't think we're ever going to go back to Crimea and Donbass being part of Ukraine and not under Russian control. And so it's going to make a lot of people unhappy regardless of where we end up.
So then here's the $1 million question, right? So they already have Crimea, Donbass. They're fighting over. I think does Russia now have Donbass? I'd have to ask you. You're the expert.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Donbass is that eastern sort of crescent along the border. That's the part Russia's had the longest.
Okay.
They took that before they took Crimea, and they had a plebiscite that, strangely enough, the Russians won because the Russians were running it. And that was before the invasion and to take Crimea.
So you've got Trump, who said to Zelensky, you don't have the cards. And so I guess my question would be, does that mean that Russia does have the cards?
Russia, if they want to keep fighting, could potentially win, because eventually, they got a lot more people that they can Shanghai and throw into the battle. They're getting help from the North Koreans. I don't know how helpful that is as far as personnel. They're just mostly more targets for the Ukrainians to kill. But they've got longer reach than Ukraine has. So Russia has the advantage here. And the incursion that Ukraine made into Russia to try and put some more pressure on them to back off has started to wane. The Russians are slowly pushing the Ukrainians back from that. And Ukraine really doesn't have the ability to push Russia out of the areas in Ukraine that it controls. So right now, if you had to give them a scorecard, you'd say Russia was probably winning, and in the long run could win. But boy, there's going to be a lot of death and destruction between now and then if that's the course we decide to take.
So Trump and Zelensky, they've been fighting over this minerals deal. How important to America would this deal be?
It would be very, very helpful for America. The deal is for access to rare earth minerals, which right now are illegal to mine in the United States. So we have some here, but we can't touch them. It's just the process they use to mine these things is so horrific to the environment that our laws won't allow it. But we need those things. And right now, the only other area and peoples that have access to those are in China. And the Chinese want to keep them, use them as a tool to put pressure on the United States and the West. Trump is looking for an independent source of those minerals that we can control so that we don't have to bow to the Chinese when it comes down to a shortage of those minerals. So the United States controlling those things would be very good for the United States. I think it would also be good for Ukraine because it would be a pretty blunt statement to Russia to back off without calling it a security guarantee. So it allows Trump to be a bulwark against Russia for Ukraine without having to put in troops or anything else. It would be a signal to them to back off and stay away, and at least not take anything new.
Stephen Bucci with us, 745 Nashville's Morning News. Stephen got some traffic problems here in Nashville. We're going to check the roads real quick. We'll return about 30 seconds on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 74 and sunny, 44 now at WTN. Stephen Bucci joining us on Super Talk 99.7. You're right. When you talk about this minerals deal, you've got Zelensky where he's demanding these security guarantees. But it seems to me, Stephen, that if he is a partner with America in mining these minerals, then that is a security guarantee because Vladimir Putin, he's not going to come bum rushing into Ukraine if we've got American workers there that are working on these, working on these mineral, wells or whatever they are. So it does seem like that kind of a partnership would really serve as a security guarantee.
It would, and it fits the model that President Trump wants. He doesn't want to do this stuff just because it's a nice thing to do. He wants to do it because there's some material benefit to Americans and to America's interests. And this deal would provide that. It would give us a great benefit. It would allow us to stand more independent of China's mineral control, and as you say, is exactly, a de facto security guarantee without calling it a security guarantee.
One of the things I find interesting about all of this is the big, huge divide within the Republican Party. You've got Lindsey Graham, who is out there screaming, talking about how we need to threaten sanctions, and he's advocating for sanctions against Russia. Critics are also saying that if Trump stops supporting Ukraine, it could be as bad as the failed pullout of Afghanistan. And that's Republicans that are saying that. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree with that. I do think we should support Ukraine because, frankly, they are the aggrieved party here. The people who are trying to say that Ukraine started it, that's a stretch. Ukraine wasn't doing anything to warrant Russia coming in and invading another sovereign country. But Vladimir Putin, really wants to control the destiny of Ukraine because it's a food source for the world, and if Russia controls it, it really has another leg on its stool. Right now, Russia's influence is primarily based on energy. And if energy, you can tough it out and tell Russia, go pound sand, we'll put on 2 coats for the winter and survive, and then get energy from other places. If they also had control of food, because Ukraine grows more wheat than we do, which is really saying something. We could probably grow more than them, but we pay our farmers not to do things. But that would really help Russia and give them a lot bigger role in the world, which is what Putin really wants. So he desperately would love to control that, but I don't think we can let him do it. It's just a bad precedent to set that could come back to bite us with regard to China and Taiwan, with regard to Iran and anybody who's owned an empire before, could make the argument that they're just doing what Russia did, just trying to protect the interests, protect their ethnic brethren that are in these other countries, and we can't let that stand.
Stephen, last question, illegal immigration. Trump is now using, I don't know if you've seen this morning, Trump is now using the CBP-1 app, the very controversial app that Biden was using to allow people into our country. Now they've programmed it, they've updated it to encourage people to self-deport. We've also, of course, opened up Gitmo. We are deporting a lot of the bad guys that are out there. You and I haven't had an in-depth conversation on illegal immigration, I think just because there's so many other things going on. But, in 90 seconds or so, are you satisfied with what the president has been doing with illegal immigration?
I think they're doing as much as they can do with the courts, involvement on the fringes. They've got a lot more done this time than they ever did last time, but the situation's a lot worse than when Trump came in the last time. Using the app to suddenly facilitate self-deportation is a brilliant idea. Why build something new when you could adjust the one that was there that was not being used to our advantage, and now it is? That's a good deal. But look, this is a real difficult thing to do. Even getting just the criminal people out is an enormous task. And, we don't treat people like cattle. We actually treat them nicely, even bad guys. And so we've got to follow certain rules. That makes it more difficult. We have a lot of people, some in our Congress, some in our mayoral offices and gubernatorial offices, who want to put a show of protecting criminals for some reason. I don't understand. I don't think they treat American criminals this way. Why they're so worried about foreign criminals who are here illegally anyway, I don't know. But, there's some roadblocks there that have to be overcome. And I think they're doing a pretty credible job of it. Director Holman there he's working hard and he's pretty focused. Now we just got to keep supporting him.
Yep, and we got to figure out something to do with those mayors in the sanctuary cities who are standing in the way. Stephen Bucci, always great to have you on. Have a great rest of week. It is 7:51 on Nashville's Morning News.